It's a monument to the fallen, tonight covered with poppies and wreaths left to remember those who served this country. This is a live look at the old City Hall cenotaph, the site of Toronto's official ceremony of remembrance earlier today. Good evening. It's a day to honor those who fought for this country and remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Hundreds gathered outside Old City Hall this morning to pay tribute to those who died in conflict, as well as veterans and active members of the armed forces. CTV's Beth McDonnell has more.
They came in the hundreds, filling the intersection of Queen and Bay in front of Old City Hall, where the Toronto cenotaph was unveiled in 1925, 100 years ago.
Each inscription, a life cut short, a family forever changed.
In front of the monument for the Remembrance Day ceremony, 4 soldiers dressed in today's uniforms, along with those from the First and Second World Wars.
N'oublions jamais, lest we forget.
Within the crowd stood personal stories of loss.
I've trained, and all my friends, some of them have passed. This is my chance to come out and honor them for the day, remember them.
And new beginnings.
My wife is a Filipino, and her family remembers the occupation of Japan of the Philippines. That's just one of the nations that Canadians helped to liberate. So she wouldn't be here today if they hadn't succeeded.
Really important to me to be here because I'm proud to be a Canadian.
For many, the ceremony is a time to think back to history and those who lost their lives. But for others, it's also a time to think about present-day conflicts and the future.
Among those laying wreaths, 101-year-old veteran Jack Bokey, who was on Utah Beach in Normandy, France on D-Day.
Insanity. It's not inhuman. And of course, I've been in the war, and now I am against the war.
Veteran Matthew Agus served in Bosnia and Afghanistan with the Princess Patricia Canadian Light Infantry. He says it's very difficult for veterans to find places outside the armed forces, and Canadians could do more.
I had difficulty. I was lucky enough to find a job in the finance industry. I'm at TD now. It would be great if more hiring managers, if more Canadians were able to see the value that veterans bring to their organizations and help them find a place.
To remember those who made it home and those who did not. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
And coming up, we'll have more on services of remembrance from across the GTA and the country. Just ahead on CTV News at 6. But first, one man has died. Several others were taken to hospital after an early afternoon fire in Mississauga.
It happened in an apartment building near North Services Road and Cawthra. And that's where we find CTV's John Musselman tonight with the very latest on this. John.
Well, Nathan, we did have a chance to speak to some tenants here who describe a very frightening situation. A lot of smoke, and they saw a lot of smoke also coming out of the unit on the first floor. That's where this person was found dead. Residents say the fire broke out in a first-floor unit and smoke quickly filled the hallways of this apartment complex on North Services Road near Cawthra Road. It happened just before 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Someone said it's a real fire, and we got my wife and that. We headed to the stairway and tried to make our way down and got out.
Was there a lot of smoke? Can you describe it?
The smoke, it started on the 4th floor really thick, and that's when you started choking and that.
All we did, I came out to go take the dog. The smoke alarm went off.
Yeah.
Then I went out into the hallway, and it was all smoke.
Heavy smoke and fire showing from an apartment on the first floor. Quickly were able to bring the fire under control. They did find one person in the fire unit who was removed without vital signs.
This viewer video shows firefighters minutes after the victim was pulled from the first floor unit. Neighbors say a man lives in the apartment. Peel police confirmed the victim did not survive. At least 4 other people were hospitalized with injuries related to smoke inhalation. This tenant, who didn't want to show her face on camera, says it was a scary situation. She tried to alert as many people as she could by banging on doors while she escaped the building with her small dog.
I tried to knock on doors as I was coming downstairs just to kind of warn people and let them know it's an actual fire.
The fire was brought under control quickly, but the building was evacuated to ventilate the smoke.
We have a Mississauga fire investigator en route, and they will start their investigation, and I imagine they will notify the Ontario Fire Marshal's office.
The cause of the fire remains under investigation. The name and age of the person who died has not been released. And Peel Regional Police remain on the scene here as they continue to ventilate some of the smoke out of the building here. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. We have more news in a moment, but first here's a look at the forecast, a live shot of the city. Now, right now, things aren't too bad, a bit chilly, but there is a small system heading our way, which means we could see some flurries and wet snow, and that could cause some messy conditions tomorrow. The commute might be a bit of a challenge. Let's take a look at our satellite radar right now, and that is the system there to the west that we're talking about. It's just sort of moving slowly toward our city. It's going to get here tonight. It's also bringing some wind with it, so bear that in mind. Right now, we're sitting at +1 in Hamilton, 1 in Barrie, 1 in Peterborough. That's pretty much the scene across the province. Sitting at +3 in the islands and the airport there +2. But the issue really is tonight and overnight, that snow that's coming, turning into wet flurries, turning into rain. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast a little bit later on in the show.
A man is dead. Another person has been seriously injured following a collision in Markham. It happened just after 5:30 p.m. yesterday in the area of Reeser Road and 16th Avenue. A 61-year-old man was taken to hospital in serious condition where he later died. The driver of the other vehicle, a 50-year-old man, was also taken to hospital with serious injuries. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. And the driver of a vehicle involved in a collision on Weston Road last Friday has now died. Police say the 40-year-old man behind the wheel of this white Mitsubishi died of his injuries yesterday. Investigators say the vehicle was traveling at a high rate of speed when it slammed in the back of a backhoe that was traveling northbound. The driver of the backhoe was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Police say the investigation continues.
And police have released an image of a suspect wanted in a hate-motivated assault targeting a member of the Jewish community. Investigators are trying to identify the man in this image. The incident happened on the night of September 27th near Bathurst and Baycrest, south of Wilson. Police say the suspect was a passenger in a moving vehicle when he was assaulted and directed racial slurs toward the victim. Anybody who recognizes this person is asked to call Toronto Police or Crime Stoppers.
Ontario has secured a one-year extension with the federal government for the national $10 a day Childcare program. The program, which currently has fees at an average of $19 a day in Ontario, had been set to expire on March 31st. Most provinces and territories signed extensions before this year's federal election, but Ontario only reached an agreement in principle to continue the program. The one-year extension comes with $695 million in additional funding from Ottawa. Ontario Education Minister Paul Calandra says that means fees will not rise next year, but the money is not enough to lower the average childcare cost closer to the $10 mark. Well, the 97th annual Remembrance Day sunrise service was held at Prospect Cemetery this morning.
Members of the Royal Canadian Legion, along with officials from all three levels of government, took part. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the details.
The playing of the last post, a symbol of the end of a soldier's life and their rest in peace. But for veterans like Charles Afuakwa, who served in both Ghana and Canada, it's also a moment of solace and gratitude.
What's going through my mind is that I'm lucky to be in Canada because I traveled to peacekeeping before and I know what was going on in Lebanon, Israel, and here we are a very peaceful country.
Standing shoulder to shoulder, hundreds of people, undeterred by the cold weather, gathered for the 97th sunrise ceremony at Prospect Cemetery, a fitting setting to pay tribute to the men and women who selflessly served and sacrificed for Canada.
As I watch the snow coming down, I imagine how cold and difficult it must have been in all the different wars that we've lost soldiers, and just remembering their bravery, their courage.
The ceremony at dawn is a tradition started by the Ladies Auxiliary of the Royal Canadian Legion, reflecting the early hour that the World War I armistice was signed in France.
Comfort those brutalized by war, that even small glimmers of hope may bring optimism for better times.
This cross is a Commonwealth War Memorial designed in 1918 by a British architect. These memorials are installed in a number of Commonwealth War cemeteries containing 40 or more graves. Inside Prospect Cemetery, this is known as the Field of Honor. the final resting place of more than 5,300 Canadian and Allied Forces veterans.
Without that act of remembrance, you can't carry that legacy onto the future. So it is important that we do take that time to reflect.
Reflections that include contemplating the current state of the world and never losing sight of the price to protect Canadian freedoms.
Moments of remembrance are really an act of resistance. They are a time where we pause to think about the cost of our actions.
A timeless tradition of looking back in the past in the hopes of preserving Canada's future. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
Meanwhile, in the beaches this morning, residents gathered at the cenotaph in Kew Gardens. The Ulster Accordion Band performed for hundreds who joined together to lay wreaths and poppies at the foot of the cenotaph. That war memorial was erected a year after the Second World War ended, when a local business association wanted to give beaches residents a place to pay tribute to those who served this country. 79 years later, community members came together for songs and 2 minutes of silence to acknowledge the sacrifice of those who serve.
Remembering those who have fallen for us to be here and for what we have now. It's a great feeling.
It's a great symbol of just the unity of Canada and the unity of the beaches community.
Meanwhile, a hot meal is being served for those coming indoors following the morning's Remembrance Day ceremonies. This was at the Baron Byng branch of the Legion on Coxwell near Dundas. A luncheon put on by Centre 55 and local sponsors wanting to bring together neighbours thankful for the sacrifices of those who have served this country.
Amazing to be among the people who are very passionate, dedicated to the country, sacrifice, and now we have a wonderful world to live in. So I'm so fortunate and blessed to be around these people.
It's a reminder for future generations, you know, the importance of peace and being able to collaborate with people that you may not necessarily agree with all the time. And especially this day and age with everything that's going on in the world, I think it's important to take a moment and reflect and learn from the mistakes of the past.
And the Naval Club of Toronto, which has been in operation for 90 years, it has been a tradition since World War I for members to gather together with the community to mark Remembrance Day as one of the most important dates in their calendar.
It's meaningful because we remember our past shipmates, the battles, the victories, and everything else where members of the military lost their lives.
Members of our club get together, invite the members of our community and our honor guests to come here and to share this ceremony with us, to talk about why Remembrance Day is important for Canadians. And it's a proud tradition that we are happy to carry on.
And Brampton was one of many GTA communities where sunrise ceremonies were held today. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown was among those who attended the ceremony at Meadowvale Cemetery Chapel. The annual event is organized by the City of Brampton, along with its local Legion branches.
Premier Doug Ford met with residents of the Sunnybrook Veterans Centre this morning.
My grandfather fought for our freedom, and I think everyone knows someone that their grandparents were involved in World War II, and just how much we appreciate them. And some of the stories that you hear are absolutely incredible, and how they serve their country overseas in different ways. So I just want to show our appreciation and tell them the people of Ontario and Canada thank them.
The Premier shook hands and thanked the residents for their service. He later planted a Canadian flag on the front lawn outside the Veterans Centre as part of Operation Raise a Flag. The annual initiative raises money to support those who live at the facility.
Yes, I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow.
Following his visit to Sunnybrook, the Premier attended a ceremony at the Ontario Veterans Memorial at Queen's Park. He was joined by several other dignitaries who laid wreaths. In Ottawa, thousands of people attended Canada's National Remembrance Day ceremony today.
They gathered in somber tribute and gratitude to those who so bravely served this country and the cause of freedom. CTV's Abigail Beeman has the story.
They came to Ottawa from coast to coast.
We have so many Newfoundlanders and who've passed through the wars.
I feel we owe a debt of gratitude to those servicemen and women who, from the past, the present, and the future.
There's a heaviness, knowing each year fewer and fewer are at the national ceremony like Elmer Friesen, here from Calgary at 103. Second World War veterans now number fewer than 4,000.
I'm so glad that my son thought I should come here to experience this alive. So moving.
If we don't remember, well, the world's enough of a mess. You can see what happens when we don't.
Time marches on. Now we have to remember our newer veterans, ones returning from Afghanistan, Bosnia, and the newer conflicts, and what we're facing today.
My transition's been pretty good. I have good days, bad days. To be here today is something that I've always wanted to do.
A service imbued with meaning. The Silver Cross mother, Nancy Payne, remembers son Randy, killed in Afghanistan. Weather so miserable, the traditional fly past replaced by a single helicopter. But still, they stood.
You want to stand up? Yes, I do.
Elmer Friesen determined to lay a poppy on the tomb of the unknown soldier for his late brother.
They sacrificed so many guys and never came home. And here I am sitting here and people are admiring me for, and it was a privilege for me to be in the service.
It has become a tradition to lay a poppy here after the ceremony, a small but impactful gesture, leaving a striking red tribute to all those who served and those who gave their lives for Canada. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still to come on CTV News at 6, researching the effects of military service on the human brain. We'll tell you about the remarkable personal donation this former soldier and former leader of the Conservative Party plans to make to help study the effects of veterans' mental health. Solemn ceremonies were also held across parts of Europe. In Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron drove down the Champs-Élysées, escorted by cavalry and troops. He laid flowers under the Arc de Triomphe before greeting military veterans. In the United Kingdom, Princess Kate attended a National War Memorial ceremony, honoring fallen soldiers and paying tribute to those who've served in the British military, while Queen Camilla led a remembrance service at Paddington train station, laying a wreath of poppies.
November 11th is Veterans Day in the United States. It's marked today with a solemn tribute. U.S. President Donald Trump laid a wreath at Arlington National Cemetery and thanked the troops and veterans for their service.
Hello, everybody. What? As we approach Veterans Day, I wanted to stop by and just say thank you for your extraordinary service. To you, your family, the sacrifices that all of you made.
And former President Barack Obama surprised a flight of 79 veterans and their families as they landed in Washington this weekend. The Honor Flight Network released the video today.
In Washington, efforts to end the longest ever government shutdown have cleared a major hurdle.
The ayes are 60, the nays are 40. The bill, as amended, is passed. Under the previous order,
the Senate passed legislation late yesterday to reopen the government after a small group of Democrats ratified the deal with Republicans. But the 41-day shutdown could last a few more days as members of the House return to Washington to vote on the legislation. U.S. President Donald Trump has signaled support for the bill.
Canada is welcoming our G7 counterparts and representatives of several other countries to a summit in Niagara region.
Tonight, we will hold a G7 foreign ministers working dinner with global peace and stability at the top of our agenda. In particular, we will have a constructive exchange on critical priorities, including advancing long-term peace and stability in the Middle East, supporting security and building prosperity in the Indo-Pacific, and responding to urgent crises in Haiti and Sudan. Tomorrow, we will start the day with a discussion with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha to reaffirm our collective support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's aggression. We will then be joined by all of our partners for discussions on critical minerals, energy security, and economic resilience.
Anita Anand has now begun bilateral meetings. The minister says she will make the case for multilateralism and wants to ensure Canada remains a leader on the world stage. Well, hundreds of thousands of Quebec households awoke this morning without electricity after a wet winter weather system knocked down power lines in the southern part of the province. The mixed bag of freezing rain and snow created hazardous road conditions and forced dozens of school closures. The province's deadline for drivers to install winter tires is December 1st. Well, back here at home, the public is getting its first look at a number of pieces of art formerly owned by a Canadian retail institution.
Dozens of paintings owned by the Hudson's Bay Company will go up for auction next week. CTV's Janice Golding has more.
This Adrian Aubert is a really great piece, Christmas at Morgan's. Morgan's was the department store.
Robert Heffel shows us some marquee pieces from the Hudson Bay Company's collection.
The Hudson's Bay commissioned well-known Canadian artists to paint historical scenes for their calendars, and they would keep the original calendar painting. And so these are some of the Canadian artists that they chose in the calendar paintings. And
27 fine art paintings from the historic company's 4,400-item collection that will be going to the highest bidder next week.
It's a fabulous collection. It's kind of documents the history of Canada, the development of the Hudson Bay, and it's a walk through Canadian art history and a walk through Canadian history.
Previews of the collection were held in cities across the country, with Toronto starting today.
It's like going to a beautiful gallery, only it's all very edited and curated, and it's absolutely stunning.
Among the favorites, Lights of a City Street, a picture of Toronto in the 1890s by Canadian artist Frederick Marlett Bell Smith.
The artist has put himself into the painting. This is the artist. These are the newspaper sellers. This is the artist's son.
And I'm old enough to remember the Big Bell Smith when it was at the at Simpsons in the Acadia Court. I often saw that painting. Everyone in my age saw the painting, so that's the one I'm really excited about seeing.
The piece garnering the most attention, however, is one of a series former UK Prime Minister Winston Churchill painted of Marrakesh.
He gave a Marrakesh painting to the U.S. president that later was sold for $1 million, but then it's sold. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie put it up for auction in their divorce, and it sold in Canadian dollars for $16 million.
The bidding will start at 3 p.m. next Wednesday at Heffel's dedicated auction ballroom in Yorkville.
This is how a modern-day fine art auction works. It's the merger between the traditional to the innovative, and this is the technology that pilots Heffel auction.
A long day with auctioneers dealing with telephone, online, and live bidding from 4 different catalogs.
We'll have our pen in our right hand and our gavel in our left, and we'll be looking for bids in the audience, but our device is here. It's a tremendous lot of fun.
Proceeds from ongoing auctions will help HBC's creditors recover some of the nearly $1 billion they're owed. Janice Golding, CTV News.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, we've done stories in the past on sunroofs shattering, and if it happens, they can be expensive to repair. But a man was shocked when his sunroof got stuck open, and to fix it, it's going to cost more than $20,000. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
And looking at the forecast once again, temperatures are dipping tonight to the freezing mark. There's also a small system coming our way, bringing a chance of flurries later tonight and overnight. There is a look at the current conditions. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Welcome back, everybody. A sunroof can be a great option for your vehicle, and now there are panoramic ones that cover a large portion of your roof.
But sunroofs occasionally have leaks, or they can shatter if hit by an object, and they can be very expensive to repair and replace. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Andrea. A Newmarket man says his wife was driving the family car when she opened the sunroof, but then it wouldn't close. They took it to a dealership and were shocked to be told to repair and replace the sunroof would cost more than $20,000. Sunroofs are a luxury option, and over the years, they have gotten bigger and bigger. Mark Hiltz of Newmarket owns a 2020 Toyota Camry and says last month the sunroof malfunctioned.
My wife was out with the vehicle and it was a nice day, opened the sunroof, then got home, proceeded to try and close it. It wouldn't close.
Hiltz took the car to a Toyota dealership and the sunroof was given an inspection.
It has bound up. It looks like you've got an issue here binding up on the driver's side. So what happens in that case? It actually twists the frame of the glass. This headliner has to come out, and it's basically the whole roof that gets replaced.
Hiltz was told to replace the frame and related parts would be just over $22,500.
I thought for sure that maybe the decimal place was in the wrong spot. If a sunroof is $22,000, like I said, a motor or a transmission must be double that.
Instead of paying the massive bill, the dealer said they could seal the sunroof shut at a cost of almost $600.
They disconnected the power to it and it's sealed shut, and now we can't use it.
The panoramic glass on the 2020 Camry does take up most of the roof, and a spokesperson for Toyota Canada told CTV News it suffered a deformation of the frame of the panoramic sunroof assembly caused by an external factor. The cost reflects the size of the unit and the complexity of the replacement procedure. Newer panoramic sunroofs are complex and have many moving parts, which can make them more expensive to repair. Hiltz says he just can't believe it cost over $22,000 to fix it.
This is just a piece of glass that opens. How can it cost that much for a sunroof?
And sunroofs are generally reliable, but they can have leaks, motor failures, and broken or cracked glass, or in this case, bent parts. So when you're buying a car, decide if you want to pay extra for a sunroof or if you can live without one. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Interesting day today. It started off cool, a little bit of snow, but then the sun came out, so it was quite nice for some of the Remembrance Day ceremonies, but it was also still very cold.
True. It was chilly this morning, and then we did get a little bit of sunshine, and I can at least say that gradually throughout the rest of this week, temperatures are steadily rising, and then we're going to get into double digits on Sundays, so something to look forward to. You can say that, but let's take a look at the current conditions right now, and you can see we're pretty much around seasonal, normal or this time of night, roughly +2, so we're kind of in that territory. The lows dipping down to around 2 as well. So around that area, although there is a slight wind chill, so it feels like -3 in Peterborough and -3 in Bancroft, but in a few areas it's actually a bit better than that. Looking at tomorrow morning, we've got the flurries coming in, and that's turning into snow showers, and that's turning into rain. So heading to school, heading to work, it's going to be a little bit messy. That could affect the roads as well. So bear that in mind. Maybe give yourself extra time if you're heading out. For the highs for tomorrow, we're looking at a little bit below seasonal for the most part, but not too bad. 6 for Toronto, 4 for Peterborough, 4 for Waterloo, 5 for London. And that system that we're talking about coming from the west is just gradually making its way here tonight, overnight, and then into tomorrow, starting off with some flurries, again turning into wet snow and then turning into rain. Here's the long-range forecast tomorrow. After that system moves through, we're moving up to a high of 6 degrees, so not too bad. And then Thursday, we've got a bit of sunshine returning. There's a slight chance of showers, but the high 7 degrees. Normal this time of year would be 8 degrees, so we're kind of getting there. And then for Friday, pretty much the same thing. chance of showers, a mixture of sun and cloud, the high 7 degrees. And then the weekend looking, I guess, decent in terms of weather. We're talking a high of 6 degrees on Saturday, but not much sunshine. And then we've got rain returning on Sunday as well, at least a chance of it. But we're going to be in double digits, so it's not going to be feeling too chilly. As for Monday, heading back to school, the high 7 degrees, which is around normal. And then we've got some sunshine, a chance of showers on Tuesday, the high just 5. So overall, the week is looking okay. Expect showers, maybe carry that umbrella. We'll give you a look or a recap of the forecast a little bit later on in the show.
Thanks, Nathan. Also tonight, warnings of a tough flu season ahead. Public health officials raise concerns about an evolving virus strain, which could cause a spike across the country.
Experts are predicting a nasty flu season after seeing Australia's numbers over the summer months.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
Canadian experts are saying the message from down under is get your flu shots now.
They had a very, very bad year, one of the worst years on record. And the reason that occurs is a combination of factors that we don't completely understand, but it does have to do with how many people are unvaccinated and it's susceptible, and the specific strain of flu that's circulating that year. And just as a reminder, you're not protected for this year's strain from last year's vaccination.
The Australian data published in September showed that this season, the flu vaccine reduced the risk of hospitalization by half.
Dr. Jerome Lee says each year Canada sees 15,000 to 20,000 hospitalizations for influenza and 3,000 to 4,000 deaths.
They had their lowest vaccine rates in Australia for like the past 5 years. So again, that's not a coincidence. If you underachieve in vaccination, you have a tougher season, and in particular, you see more hospitalizations and deaths.
He says Sunnybrook and other Ontario hospitals are already seeing a jump in flu cases a good 2 weeks earlier than usual.
The challenge here is that if flu season's already upon us, and especially if it comes a month earlier, we will be less prepared, and there could be significant impacts to the healthcare system. It takes 14 days for the flu vaccine to take full effect. We really don't have much time to get vaccines into arms.
Everyone over age 6 months is encouraged to get their free flu shot, and high-dose flu shots are available for seniors. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
As we honor the men and women who serve our country, there is acknowledgement of the physical and mental tolls military service can take.
Researchers are working to understand the impacts on the brain to better protect and treat service members and veterans. Now a high-profile Canadian is enlisting to help. CTV's Natalie Johnson explains.
It's about 5K.
Down on the boardwalk by his East End home, Aaron O'Toole still maintains a quick pace in life after politics.
When I run, I generally go to the volleyball courts.
The former federal Conservative leader harnesses physical activity to support brain health, grateful that he never suffered a brain injury during his years of service in the military.
Our veterans serve, and many of them come back with injuries, both physical, mental, some aren't visible. And traumatic brain injury is something that we're really starting to understand.
Now, in this time of remembrance, O'Toole is pledging to donate his brain when he dies to Project Enlist. Research conducted by the Concussion Legacy Foundation to better understand the impact of military service on the brain.
You first think of the roadside bomb and, the light armored vehicle and the concussion, but it doesn't have to be that dramatic.
It's this revelation that it's not just concussions, it's the cumulative non-concussive impacts over time that people sustain during the course of their service that can end up leading to mental health issues, neurodegenerative disease, CTE.
Even though O'Toole didn't suffer head trauma during his time in the military, his brain can serve as a baseline or control for the testing. So far, more than 500 veterans have pledged to donate their brains for research.
I think we need to make sure we have the best protection, headgear and other things for our men and women in uniform. And we have to find treatment methods to reduce injury and treat it early so that there can be a quality of life.
Quality of life that is so critical year-round, well after Canadians take off their poppies when the Remembrance Day ceremony ends.
I hope this donation will take place a long time in the future, but I want to be part of something that is so positive.
Arming the Canadian military with research that will help to better educate and equip Another step forwards in supporting those who serve. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
After the break, preparing to break the ice and shoot for success, the Toronto Scepters begin training camp as they look ahead to the upcoming PWHL season.
Remember $2 Tuesday? Cineplex is trying to lure more Canadians back to the theater by offering cheaper tickets, but on Mondays. But there's a catch. BNN Bloomberg's Mirella Fernandez has the details.
The company is launching Monday surprise premieres, so you'll get a cheaper ticket, but you also don't know what movie you're going to see. A movie ticket typically runs around $16, but on Mondays they will be $8.99. For that, moviegoers will get to see a new major release, but they won't find out which one until they take their seats. Cineplex is trying out new things to make money as it battles against streaming services. A new survey reveals most Canadians want to cut back on their Christmas spending. The survey was done by insolvency firm Harris & Partners. Close to 72% of those asked say the higher cost of living is putting a strain on their holiday budget. FedEx expects a boost from the Christmas season. The parcel delivery firm expects profit to improve. FedEx, like many other couriers, has been hindered this year by changing American trade policy. The outlook today sent FedEx shares up. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar up a fraction to 71.36. West Texas Intermediate crude is up to 61.01. Western Canadian Select up a bit to 48.29. And the TSX gained 92 points to end the day at 30,409. Those are your business headlines. I'm Mirella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
With Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the holiday season nearing, a rising cost of living is expected to challenge Canadian spending habits this season. A new survey by insolvency firm Harris & Partners suggests Canadians are preparing for a more modest Christmas this year. Nearly 72% of the more than 1,800 Canadians surveyed in November say they'll cut back on Christmas spending, and 85% expect to adhere to a strict budget this season. More than half of those polled also reported feeling financially unprepared for the holidays.
First and foremost, it's important to make sure that you spend your money on the important things like food and shelter and stuff, and don't feel bad about not being able to buy a present or something like that. I think people will definitely understand. So that's always the most important thing that we tell people. So first and foremost, take care of yourself and your family, because you don't want to spend that money on something that and then not have money for that. I think that's really the most important thing that we can preach.
More frustration for air travelers this week as U.S. airports are forced to meet a higher FAA target for reducing flights. The agency first ordered airlines to drop 4% of flights at 40 major airports during staffing issues. Now, after canceling over 7,900 flights since Friday, the goal rises to 6% today and 10% on Friday. Air traffic controller shortages continue to cause delays, and freezing weather is adding to the disruptions. The U.S. Senate passed legislation to reopen the government, but the bill still needs House approval, and that can't come before tomorrow.
The Toronto Scepters began training camp today ahead of their third PWHL season.
Their first preseason game is on Sunday, and as CTV's Sean Leathong reports, the team has its eyes on the Walter Cup.
At the start of training camp, Toronto Scepters star Natalie Spooner says the third year in the Professional Women's Hockey League is about growth.
I think every year it's like you want to make it bigger and better than it was the year before. And I think after the first year, we thought, wow, how is the second year going to be even able to keep up with the first year? But then we saw the second year and all the, the games that sold out so fast and what we were able to do in that year. So I think, now with expansion and there's just so much more excitement too.
This year, the PWHL is expanding from 6 to 8 teams, adding clubs in Vancouver and Seattle.
The PWHL is expanding, and that's just so good for our sport in general. I think the more teams there are, there's more fans, there's more accessibility around the whole world.
Toronto lost Sarah Nurse to free agency and 3 more players in the expansion draft.
It definitely feels like there's some changes, but heading into season 3, I think we've built a really solid foundation over the last 2 years.
There are 15 returning players from last season. For a team that wanted to win the ultimate prize, they'll be working to gel quickly.
We have so many new players on our team and in our locker room that I think our identity is going to be something that we're working on here over the next few weeks.
But as the league grows and rosters change quickly, players who have worked so hard to get this league off the ground say now is only about that one goal.
I think it's a win now league. You know, year 1, you're just taking it all in. You always want to win, but year 1, you're just taking it in. Year 2, you're hungrier, and you still don't win the Walter Cup. Year 3, like, you want to win it, so you're going to put everything out there to win.
Obviously, our goal coming in is we want to win the Walter Cup. We've, you know, fallen short the last 2 years, but I think we also realized that the start of our last 2 seasons has got away from us.
And the Scepters will have to move quickly as training camp is just a week and a half long, with the season starting on November 21st against the 2-time defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
Meanwhile, the Toronto Maple Leafs play Boston tonight for a second time this season.
Midpoint and now in front, scores!
John Tavares scored in Saturday's 5-3 loss to the Bruins at Scotiabank Arena. Boston will be looking for its 7th straight win when it welcomes the Leafs to town tonight. The Bruins are second in the Atlantic Division, 3 points ahead of Toronto.
Now redirect goes back in. The runner doesn't go. Oubre scoops it up. The loose ball and a slam dunk.
The Raptors are also in action tonight. Toronto is coming off a 130-120 loss to the 76ers in Philadelphia on Saturday. The Raps will try to win their 4th road game of the season when they visit the 1-9 Brooklyn Nets.
To baseball, and John Schneider will find out after 7 o'clock tonight if he's been named American League Manager of the Year. The Blue Jays skipper took the team from worst to first in the American League, followed by a trip to the World Series. Stephen Vaught of the Cleveland Guardians and Dan Wilson of the Seattle Mariners are the other finalists. Voting was done before the playoffs.
Just ahead, learning Canadian history firsthand while honoring our veterans. A Scarborough Public School marks Remembrance Day with a special assembly. A sunset ceremony was held at Mount Pleasant Cemetery to mark the end of Remembrance Day. The Royal Canadian Air Force flag was lowered at the end of the day after flying at the cemetery all day. The ceremony was organized by the RCAF Foundation and was described as offering one final moment to reflect and honor those who have served.
From Billy Bishop and William Barker, who's interred into the mausoleum here, right up to Jeremy Hansen and the next mission to Mars. We have 100 years and then some to celebrate and to talk about with the Air Force. But I think on Remembrance Day, you're also thinking about the future of remembrance. What's going to happen when our Second World War and our Korean War veterans have passed on? Are we still going to think that this ceremony is as important? And that's going to be up to the next generation. Some of these younger kids that were here at the ceremony today, thinking about how they're going to make it relevant and important in their lives for generations to come.
Finally tonight, this is a day for all ages to remember.
Students at a Scarborough Public School held a special assembly today to mark Remembrance Day. CTV's Allison Hurst has more.
The students of Courcelette Public School marked Remembrance Day in song. By reciting the famous poem in Flanders Fields, and
our school is named after the Battle of Courcelette, which occurred during World War I.
By reflecting on the impact wars and battles have had on the country, our communities, and the name of this school itself.
It was actually one of the first battles where tanks were used, and they were run by the Canadians.
On Remembrance Day, Pearl Black also thinks of her great-grandfathers who served.
My great-grandpa actually lied about his age just so he could serve our country.
During the ceremony, children listened as Major James D. Clark of the CDG 6 Reserves spoke of what it means to serve.
It's very encouraging to know that they're learning about this and maintaining the traditions and honoring the veterans and all the people who've fought for our freedom and our way of life.
Students also read poems and shared stories about Indigenous veterans.
There were like a lot of Indigenous Canadians who fought in the war which is like very cool, and makes me kind of sad that some of them died.
It meant to me that just to celebrate soldiers and what they did for our land.
Teachers shared the importance of continuing to teach the next generation about Remembrance Day.
History is important. Understanding your past better informs your present and your future.
For some students, understanding the day and reading the poems is heavy.
I felt really sad because it kind of talks about how the people in the wars died.
Some of those soldiers who died were just a few years older than the oldest students at this school.
They made that sacrifice then, and I'm so proud they did, and I'm proud to be here in this country.
Especially on this day to remember. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
All right, great story. Let's take one last look at the forecast, and you'll see through our satellite radar that there's a system coming our way, bringing some snow, some rain, and some wet snow, and hopefully it's going to clear up by late morning. Right now, it's pretty much where we should be this time of year. We're at +2 in Toronto, +1 in Peterborough, +1 in Barrie. Looking at the long-range forecast, temperatures are gradually going up. So the flurries and all that's going to dissipate by afternoon. A high of 6 degrees. For Thursday and Friday, a mixture of sun and cloud, chance of showers, highs of 7. And then the weekend, I guess the day to look forward to is Sunday. Yes, some showers, but a high of 10.
Well done. Thank you. Well, be sure to join Omar Satadina tonight at 11 for the CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching. Have a good night. I'm Andrea Case. And he's Nathan Downer.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Thank you.
Good night.